When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ledlow, and enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone. This is Mark Ledlow. I know it's been a while since we've been on a date here on the Fearless Mindset Podcast, but I'm back. I'm back to torture your minds and your souls to the new 2025 New Year's resolution to get out there and work your butt off and drop that weight. New Year's resolution to last, a mile and you're done for the year, right? I didn't joke around. It's been a while. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. I don't know. I've just been a weird mood today. I got my tea going on. I just got back from Costco, got my salmon, trying to drop some more weight, keep it off after being 5 months on the road. And I think Ben and I saw each other like 3 times the last 5 months. On his third.
It's been busy.
How many legs did you do, Ben, from Australia back to LA? You did that trip probably, 3 times in 4 months?
Yeah, mate, I did, well, from June through to December, I did it 4 times, back and forth.
4 times.
Yeah.
And that's 14 hours each way, right?
Yeah, mate. It's it's 14 hours across the pond, but banging it in from Australia to New Zealand for the transfer is, maybe an extra 3 or 4 hours with the, airport travel, that sort of stuff. So it's a full 20-hour trip to get over there.
Ooh. And that's in first class, right? First class,
yeah,
right?
Of course, yeah. Mate, Panoptic doesn't do anything except first class, top 1%. No, there was a trip that was not planned, so it was like a last-minute leg, and it was a middle seat in economy for 14 and a half hours on the way home across the Pacific, and that, I've been through some barrier testing and done some stuff for gateway tests for, special policing stuff, and I reckon that 14 hours in the chair was probably harder than anything I've ever done.
That's brutal.
Yeah.
But, I'm impressed by the commitment, dedication, perseverance you and your team have. And we saw each other in Orlando, then I go to DC, and there you are, there in the Amazon building hanging out. I'm like, what the heck? I'm like,
yeah, man.
But, there's so many people that live in the U.S. that won't even give it a second chance of getting on a 2-hour flight just to show up to say hello. So
yep.
I have to commend you guys from Europe and Australia coming into the U.S. just to network. Kudos to you guys. I've realized what is involved in that trip. Finances, the hotels, the plane tickets, food, lodging. That's expensive. And a table and sponsoring.
Yeah, mate. Look, all those things are relative. I guess we look at the cost of business. Everyone's got a cost of doing business, and we see that as a big part of our marketing expenses for the year. But the other part, I think that a lot of people lose track of with when you're sending away your executive team to these conferences is the downed productive time. Like I'm not hyper functional when I'm on the road. Like I'm not, producing a whole lot of good quality content for our marketing. I'm not producing a whole lot of, client interactions in the space of, the follow-ups for our operations or, what we might need to do in our billing space or whatever it might be, or, especially back home, because it's all well and good that we're traveling over to the States and we love hanging out with our, our Five Eyes cousins overseas. But the business that we've got back here in Australia and in the Pacific is massive. So much of our work is actually domestic and around the Pacific. So, from Japan through to Singapore and, Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, New Zealand. So it's a big investment in time to step away from being in the Pacific. So,
I heard someone tell me this, that so much of their business was relying on the U.S. coming to them.
Yes,
now, for your market, is it mainly Australia-based, South Africa-based, and Asia-based clients coming back and forth across, the different oceans, and you guys supporting them, or what does that look like?
I actually did the figures on this a while back. It's probably about a 60-40 breakdown, with 60% of our business. When I say domestically, we operate from Japan all the way down the coastline of Asia through the Philippines and into Indonesia and out into the Pacific and Australia. So that's when I say domestic, I suppose I'm sort of talking about our channel of the world, staying in our
Hmm.
lane. So probably 60% of our work is in that channel, that lane of the globe, and then 40% would be coming out of the States, primarily
Wow.
West Coast. So West Coast tech startups, your
Okay.
founders, that sort of stuff that are coming. We do a lot of family office. Our Where we started was in family offices. Like we all come from a military, some sort of tier one or tier two SF or a regular unit, and then we've got a lot of police tactical groups from different sections around the world that are part of our teams. So we sort of we started in that dignitary protection space where I think a lot of gents back home in the States, for you guys, you're in that sort of Department of State Service, Secret Service, or you might be on a governor's detail, something like that. So very, very similar operating standards,
Hmm.
but we focus mainly in that family office space.
What are you seeing as far as shifts in the industry now that Trump just got elected as president? I'm
Yeah,
being apolitical on the podcast. I
yes, sir.
served under Bill Clinton in the Marine Corps, so I was willing to give my life there. So if you want to
Yes, sir.
take shots at me. I was willing to die for my country, for your freedom. Here you go. So want to take a shot? Take a shot.
Mate, I
Feel free to.
would would never ever criticize anyone who's prepared to stand up and serve in some function, whether or not that's military,
Amen.
law enforcement, or
Right.
in government. Because if
Right.
you've got the balls to put your own life on the line in the sense of, character assassination, your family's physical
Hmm.
assassination attempts on your presidents. I mean,
Yeah.
the president's had two when he was, campaigning. So,
Yeah. He did.
um, yeah, look, mate, I take my hat off to anyone that's prepared to stand up for their nation and
Amen.
commit
Yeah.
to actually be seen for something. So, oh, we're seeing some big shifts out here,
All right.
especially
Okay.
in the Pacific. Yeah, yeah. Ironically, mate, I actually just got back from China.
Whoa.
I was over there. Yeah, I was over there for some work, and the main concern is not so much kinetic contact between the nations. It's more about security, safety, and what the administrations are going to be like interacting with each other. And so, what's the feel on the ground in these, amazing nations all through the Pacific, from the Philippines, Japan, China? There's these incredible countries that are just doing so much in their own
Hmm.
backyard, but it's very much a hold your breath and wait and see what is this change going to bring.
I mean, I can feel being apolitical again. I can feel an optimism for business. I mean, I spent 5 months on the road in Texas, Florida, across the country. And the
Yep,
optimism was like, whoa, like this is a different country. While I was in
yep,
office, I felt like I was in a different country,
yep,
in Texas, in the South, in the Midwest, and the East Coast. It just, I can sense a change going on before the elections took place. And I'm like, whoa. And I think everybody was on eggshells either way. But now it's
yep,
been done. It's a popular vote. Trump's in. And I definitely sense a optimism of business, and people are excited because they go, okay, here it comes. It's like everybody's f what's the word to say? How did you describe it? An apprehension, or there's an excitement, there's an optimism that I
yep.
haven't seen in a long time. And I think business folks are going to spend money like they never spent before because there's that confidence coming back. But what do I know? That's just that
Well,
theory.
your feeling is definitely reflected across this the Pacific, and what we're seeing from inquiries. Oh, mate, it's a midweek. It's Wednesday over here. It's lunchtime Wednesday in Australia when we're doing this podcast. I don't know what time it is back home for you, mate, but Monday just gone was the busiest Monday I reckon I've ever experienced, with international phone calls from United States through to Europe, through to parts of Asia. The amount of travel that's going on at the moment is, it's the only way I can describe it is ape shit. It is absolutely crazy, mate. Oh, I had I've only got one good ear. I've lost the other ear in all the work that I've done. But that my phone was running hot. I'm sure I've got like a radiation on a gigameter going right now. And if someone put me through a test, I'd ping. So, yeah, it was nuts. And I think it's a reflection
Wow.
of how the year started, because so many people can see that Trump is going to bring in a whole bunch of, changes that are, by the sounds of it, from back home for you, exciting, positive.
This is the busiest January we've had in I've been in business 5 years. This is by
Yeah,
far the busiest January I've ever seen. I'm like, we're doing our numbers. I'm like, holy cow. I'm like, we're all
yeah,
betting each other. I bet we do 50 missions this month.
yeah,
We're like five jobs away from 50 for January. Like, whoa, it's just
yeah,
screaming right now. And I think the momentum is picking up. People are going to be traveling because they want to do business. They want to spend money. And
yeah.
so you're saying family offices where you guys started, but
Yes,
now
sir.
you're doing all kinds of other stuff besides family offices.
Yeah, mate. And look, to the question you asked before in regard to, the amount of travel we do across the USA and spend time in your great nation with so many of the guys there at the conferences, guys and girls. Um, we do bring a lot of work now out of the States that isn't just family office. So we support some US government departments, definitely Fortune 500s in that sort of very high end space. A lot of financial sector work. We
Mhm.
do a lot of financial secure ground transport, uh, expedited travel through international airports. Facilitating the FBO movements, that sort of stuff. So it definitely has worked in a very positive sense for us, spending the time overseas and investing in, getting to meet great guys like yourself. Like to get the chance to have a conversation with you when we're at that last conference, mate. Fantastic. Getting to catch up with you again in DC, ripper opportunity. Getting to meet Mark Beeson, like
The
what a
pit bull,
legend.
the pit
Yeah,
bull.
man, absolutely, but also just because we get to have a conversation because we got commonalities with our law enforcement backgrounds, and
Mhm.
we're exchange, mate. We weren't just talking about executive protection.
Oh yeah,
He and I
talking
were
about life.
talking about doing, yeah, and we're talking about like one of my good mates over in St. Louis just sent me a new knife because I was genuinely having a conversation with him about my old SOG knife that I had when I was joining the police tactical group,
Yeah.
and I was saying, oh, unfortunately it's end of watch. It's I broke the tip off. I was at a drug house, blah blah blah. Long story, whatever. But I was talking to Beeson about it, and he goes, "Hey man, I did this really cool project with like a thin blue line on the flag for the US flag, and it was at a creative shadow box setup." And I was like, "That is so cool." And so now we're exchanging ideas about an end of watch thing for me to celebrate part of my career with the knife and the ceremony and all that sort of stuff. And I think the beauty of crossing the pond is that you get to hang out with, and it goes both ways, right? Because I'll tell you,
Mhm.
having you guys come over and working with a lot of seppos who've come over here with their clients, there's a familiarity in
Mhm.
what we do and how we do things because our great nations are so aligned and they have been for 50 plus years
Mhm.
through the thick and the thin of it. Like some good and some
Oh
bad
yeah.
times. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's always a pleasure, and I think because we have that familiarity, and
Mhm.
we're one of the few nations in Asia that is very very similar to what the US is like, so we can relate.
Yeah, I always heard the joke from the guys that live in England. They always say, "Just remember, the Aussies were the ones that were locked up in prisons. We sent them to Australia as a prison." I'm like, "Is that
Yeah,
true? That is true."
and you know what? Jokes on them, suckers, because we got the beautiful country.
There you go.
Here's a fun fact. Here's a little bit of a familiarity fact for the Yanks and the Aussies. So you guys had a rebellion and you kicked all the Brits back home. We actually had we call it the Rum Rebellion in Sydney, and
That's right.
we sacked the governor and we pissed the British off, and we took the country as convicts and got rid of the overlords. Unfortunately, I think because it was the Rum Rebellion, we just continued to keep drinking the rum, and then they came back, and well, that's the problem with being too laid back. You forget that you won the war.
You forgot to run the war. But come for a circle now. You guys are a major economy in Australia now, and how generations change, people change, country change, and
Yes,
technology
sir.
changes. Now we're like interlinked on social media, and now we're
Yeah.
doing podcasts. And now it's almost we can be live instantaneously within seconds. We're that connected
Well,
now.
well, mate, like you've got a problem and you need something solved down here. You can pick up the phone to me, and I'm going to solve it with the same intensity that the pit bull would solve the problem for you back home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And I think that's the benefit of, building these live connections between each other is that
Mm-hmm.
it's all about, uh, oh, here we go. You and I had this piece. We sell trust, Mark.
We got to trademark
We
that sucker.
Yeah, somehow, somewhere. But we might do executive protection. We might be
Mm-hmm.
protectors at heart. We might be providing, dignitary protection or EP or whatever it is that we've learned from whatever course or training that we've had. But at the end of the day, when we go private industry or we're providing these services, as we're interacting with each other, you and I, and we might be sharing a client as they're moving across borders. You've got to be able to trust that when you land them in Australia, not only is your advance going to be completely, sorted so that you don't look like a tool, that your job runs perfectly. You need to know that I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to make sure you get the best rates. I'm going to look after you with the best vehicles. I'm going to make sure the dudes that you're dealing with aren't, you know, chatting to the principal and asking them, awkward questions or trying to card them behind your back. Like that's that's the trust that we sell. And Panoptic, uh, integrity, discretion, and trust are our three things on our challenge coin because
Mm-hmm.
they mean so much to us in this business. And what we're trying to provide to people, whether they're from the States or they're from the UK or maybe they're coming out from Japan, whoever they are, we
Mm-hmm.
want them to experience the same thing. They can rely on us as a trusted partner. And I think you and I hit that off in that conversation in DC at the OSAC dinner at that the TSF dinner. That's what we're trying to do for people is let them know they can trust us.
And I was explaining to Nate Sanders, I think it's your operations manager. They're working under Mark Beeson, my chief operating officer at Ledlow Security
Yep.
Group. That sometimes these things don't happen overnight with these clients. They're watching you for a couple of months. They meet you, and I
Yeah.
think A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez, the baseball player, said it the best. It takes about 7 to 9 touches before a deal is done. That's
Yep.
how long it takes to do an in-depth business transaction. And I think in our the turnaround in business for us, you have the first meet and greet. You might have a second meet and greet, and then you have dinner. That may take 6 months, and then you got to go through a vetting process. That may take another 6 months. So I think the close ratio in the sales cycle to get a client contract is probably about a year.
Yeah, it's a long game, mate.
And I think
Yeah.
the younger generation listen to this. Oh, I just want to go to start my own company and get land a contract.
Yeah.
So getting contracts it's like really difficult. I did not know how difficult it was until I got in this. That I used to be a corporate account executive and in corporate America before I moved to Southern California to become an EP agent. And that was very transactional for Washington Mutual at the time. And I was selling merchant services.
Yeah.
And your sales cycles was meet, close a deal, meet, close a deal. This is like you meet, dinner. Okay, they trust you. 6 months later, you get a phone call, and then you don't
hear anything, do you? And then literally it's half a year later.
And then I was just thinking about you. You want to jump on a call? When they want to say you want to jump on a call, that means they want to talk business. But what I've learned is, I told Nate, I said, Nate, I never ask for a client's business. Never. What? What do you mean? They know what we do. They know who we are.
Yep.
They know what we offer. Whoa. You don't need to ask. When that client trusts you, they'll email you, text you, or call you.
Yep.
You just got to play the long game.
I couldn't agree more.
You got to play the long game.
More, mate.
And this young generation, they just want to close the deal. That first meeting, I'm like, doesn't work like that. Especially, you're working with executive assistants, you're working for family offices. They're not going to let just anybody in the circle to meet the principal or that family. Their job is to protect them. And so,
they're the gatekeeper, right?
Right.
Do you find, Mark, with the work that you're doing statesides in regards to the business transactions that you are doing, that you're dealing with that sort of second tier management before you're dealing with the client? So you're talking to maybe like the director of a security program for a family office or...
Yeah, that's what we're seeing over here. And one thing to think about, these men and women stay in this position maybe a year to 2 years, they get a better job offer, they bounce out. And I was telling my teams that, hey, think about this. When you're trying to get business and you get a contract, let's say you get a contract, that contract's going to last maybe a year to 2 years. And then director of security is going to get promoted or take a job with another firm and he's gone. Yeah. And then the likelihood of you getting that continued business when that new person comes in position, 50-50 chance. They may not call you. They may bring in their buddy. or somebody they already have a
correct.
trusted relationship with, and bring them in and replace you. That's just the
Yeah,
nature of business, especially our
it
business.
is. Yeah, yeah. It's a funny one, isn't it? That trusted relationship thing, because for instance, we take quite great pride in what we believe we deliver as a company. We take great care in preparing all the operations that we execute on the ground. However, at the end of the day, there's still only a 0.1% margin of failure where one person in your operation makes one mistake, one bad comment, dresses incorrectly, or turns up, 2 seconds too late, or maybe even too early, tries to pick the principal up, from a business meeting too early, or whatever it is. And that job's done. That contract's out the door, and now you're looking for more business. And it's a crazy world where you've spent so long on your pipeline building that trusted relationship with people, to
Mm-hmm.
the point that you're providing advice on really critical elements like safety and security, transport, logistics, time, all those sorts of things. And then you're down to the foibles of one individual human being who may make a mistake.
Yeah. And one thing about this business is it's so unforgiving. There's no union protection in this industry at all.
No,
If you spell
no.
wrong, you wear the wrong cologne, or the Listerine was too strong in the car,
Yep.
or you have onion on your breath because you were in a hurry to jump in the shotgun or driver's seat
Yep.
to take the principal somewhere, and they smelt your breath and it just turned them off. You're done. I mean, there is no
Yeah.
mercy at all in this industry.
So true. So true. Look, and I'll tell you, it's reflected over here, whether it's with US clients, or we've got clients coming out of Asia, or Aussies flying international. We see the exact same thing over here. It's a 0.1% margin of error, and it can be for the simplest things that you don't even pick at the time. Like unfortunately, I'm a ginger bearded, bald headed, middle aged white guy, and sometimes that can hurt me, right? Like sometimes I'm just the wrong looking person to get on the tools. So yeah, it's a tough one.
Before we hit our 30-minute mark on this podcast,
Oh
I
yeah,
got to do a little
I
shout
see you
out.
wearing a cool. I see you wearing a cool shirt there.
This is the OG. Thanks, Jerry.
Oh,
I didn't know I was an OG in the industry, but I guess I am. There's the EP Cool Guys. This one is the one, shout out to Caleb Gilbert, that he printed out last year in Dallas when it all went down with my PowerPoint pop up on LinkedIn. That I had a certain document that I received from a certain person. I received it from that certain person. And here we go. The EP Cool Guys was launched from a PowerPoint. Now it's a joke. Take the high road. It's a joke. We're all having fun with it. And Jerry, in his brilliant merch mind marketing brilliancy, he sent me the new. I'm just opening this up now, fresh. The new 2.0 version of the EP Cool Guys. I'm opening up the shirt.
oh dear, oh dear.
Here we go. Here we go. Oh boy.
That looks like it's too big for you, mate.
Yeah, I think I lost too much weight.
I reckon
There
you
you
dropped too
go.
much weight.
There you go, folks. The new 2.0 version and the OG. Jerry, good job. I think this one's more artistically done. Caleb
I
Gilbert,
think
great idea.
I think you were doing some promo about some cufflinks too, mate. You were talking up the
Oh,
cufflinks.
yeah. Cufflinks. Yeah, don't let me forget about that. I'll probably have to wear this in my tuxedo when I'm down in South Florida for an event for the veterans.
Please try again.
Oh, AI is in my iPhone. Please try again. I didn't know you were talking. Okay. And then we got the cufflinks. Well done, Jerry. Well done.
So he's all about the merch, that fella. He's all about the merch.
Pretty
I'll
ingenious.
tell you, if there's anything I learned from him the first time I met him, it was that you always got to carry something in the way of swag.
Uh-huh. And then he geniusly gave me a bunch of these. I'm going to be handing these out at conferences so you can join the club. And the purpose of this whole t-shirt thing was to raise money for people that can't afford to go to conferences. And him and
Yep.
Pablo put their brains together. They go, you know what? Let's print these t-shirts out, sell them. And I bought 3. And I think Colby ended up using that for a scholarship for the IPSP conference. So well done, guys.
Yeah, I met Colby there. And I'll tell you, there was a fellow who made absolutely every effort to maximize the value of what he received through that scholarship. Not only did
Hmm.
he reach out to us, he made the effort. Big shout out to you, Colby Pickering, made the effort to reach out to us. And I mean, we're an international provider. He touched base with us, got in
Wow.
contact, made the effort to talk to us. And I'm sure he did the same with everyone else there. It wasn't just us. And then he was a stand-up fella. He came and spoke to us when we are at the conference presenting, when we are exhibiting there at the IPSB. Um, if that's where the money's going for these scholarships and you're getting
Absolutely.
guys into the industry, that's a win. Like, like I said, mate, if anyone's prepared to stand up for something they believe in and they represent it, and it's going to benefit other people beyond their own self, then I think that there's a win behind it.
Huge win. And then the creative geniuses with the pins. Way to go, Jerry. You got the men and the women version.
I'll have to figure out which one goes in front or above or beside the Friends of Chuck.
So it looks like I got two ladies there. Okay, two lady pins. Very good. And then I'll have to find this.
He's telling you something, stud. He's telling you something.
We're just having fun with this, folks. Gotta go find the guy version. Okay. Where are the guys at? Okay.
That one's recorded, by the way, Mark. You can't delete that from the podcast. They'll always have you saying that.
Oh, well. Huh. Oh, there's the dude. There's the dude right there. There's the dude. I knew he was in there somewhere.
Looks a bit like myself with some hair.
Some hair. So shout out to Jerry. Great scholarships for the young generation trying to understand what this thing called executive protection is all about. And we'll be giving out good conferences.
Look, I think as an industry, it's an amazing place to come and work, right? So many of us come from some sort of background. Yourself, thank you for your service, Mark. I know you served in the Defence Force before. Well, we call it the Defence Force over here. You obviously, you separate by code that you serve behind, but we all come at this from being a protector of some kind, right? Like, I mean, it's not. There's nothing flash about what we do. There's no dark art. We stand in hallways. We follow principles. We drive cars. Yeah, some of the stuff we do is sexy and fun, like, running and gunning. But the reality is it's suit and tie with a set of closed-in leathers, staying in a hallway or, by a boardroom or, following a principle around. And I think it's a fantastic industry because it has a purpose and a value and it provides a service, which ultimately links back to where we all obviously come from, whether it's some sort of, innate protective element behind who we are because we joined the military or the police or, we just wanted to get into this industry for some other reason. We didn't get the chance to join one of those service streams, but I think it's fantastic, mate, that those scholarships are going to help bring people into the industry.
Absolutely.
That's huge over there for you guys, right? Like the economy behind executive protection in the US is off the hook.
It's a massive. Wouldn't you say, for the audience coming in and joining us for about the 30-minute mark, whatever it is, I have Ben. How do you pronounce your last name, Ben?
Hosking, mate. Ben Hosking.
Ben Hosking. He's from Australia, live from Australia, and he served in law enforcement, and he's been in the protection game for how many years? Probably 20 years at least.
Yeah, almost. It's coming up to 20 now, mate. I started with one of our state police forces, and in Australia, we've only got 8 police tactical groups across the state and federal police forces, and then those police tactical groups form what is called, effectively under the Australian New Zealand Counterterrorism Committee, second tier for like domestic counterterrorism response. The tier 1 being the Australian military. But the only way they get to get involved in any action on Australian soil, we don't have a National Guard like you guys, but if we do have the military deployed in Australia, they have to be deployed under I think it's a request to the Prime Minister, and it's some sort of specific terminology. But outside of the Australian tier 1 guys over in Perth or the 2 commando guys in Sydney, everything that is CT based in Australia is done by a police tactical group. And so we're from hostage rescue all the way through to dignitary protection. Where I was, we also had the remit for search and rescue. And I was in the Northern Territory, which is where some of your listeners and watchers may know the series Larimer or maybe Territory or Outback
Yep.
the Outback Croc Wrangler, Matt Wright.
Yeah.
So actually, mates with him from back home. But the Northern Territory is like 13 times the size of the United Kingdom. It's
Wow.
absolutely massive, and there were 30 police tactical group operators in that territory, and we were
Wow.
responsible for the entire Northern Territory from Darwin to Alice Springs and everything and anything in between. So it was some wild, like take yourself back 50 years in the United States. That's what it was like in the territory when I was policing up there.
Whoa.
So